Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Anvil. As it took me a minute to start this because Zoom likes to change things. If you hear the fire whistle going off in the background, it's because the local fire department is being dispatched. Not sure if you can hear that or not, but hey, let's roll it. Ooh, Ginner's coming back up. But let's roll with it. We have in the house Dustin Rhodes of Dustin Rhodes Forge Works, Axis on Main, with soon to be former Axis on Main. I don't know. We'll find out on this episode of Behind the Anvil. Take it away, Dustin. And he's literally behind the anvil.
I am
Or in
behind
front of
the
the
anvil. I
anvil.
figured it's a good place to be, especially if someone's shooting at you. This also works as a pretty good barrier for bullets. So never know when you might need it, right?
Right?
So yeah, been staying pretty busy. We've got, especially since the beginning of the year, I've been in and out of the shop a lot. We've got some. Well, Cheyenne, how should I put it? We've got business expansion coming up. We got business growth, and for those of us who are full-time bladesmiths, Mike, yourself, I
I.
know you're always uh, looking at new projects and new business opportunities and so forth. We're actually going to be expanding our business down into the great state of Tennessee,
Awesome.
and we're hoping to we'll be doing that this year. We'll give exact dates when we have exact dates, but right now it has been an amazing. I don't even know a word or a phrase to use in polite company, but it's been a process, I guess. Um, Acquiring properties. We just got a new shop built, new home shop. Um, we had some business opportunities and business offers come up a few years back, and uh, we knew we were working towards this, but we didn't know what our time frame was. And just kind of like life happened, and we're going to be expanding down into Tennessee. We're still doing Forge of Memory. That's at a new location for us, kind of working with Robbie Bowman on that project.
Shout out
And
to Robbie Bowman
yeah, Robbie
from
Bowman,
Iron
former
Mountain
fire fan
Metalcraft.
favorite. Uh, Iron Mountain Metalcraft, one of the most popular, if not the most popular, forge your own knife experiences in Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area. He's actually in Pigeon Forge in the old Mill District. But yeah, so Lizzie and her husband are actually Dalton. They're going to be taking over these properties here in St. Elmo. Uh, we're just going to say in the next couple months, and I my understanding is they're still going to be doing the forging experiences. They're going to still be doing uh, the axe throwing. There may be some change up in that in the near future, but they're going to kind of feel it out and figure out where they want to go with it. Um, we're going to be forging a lot more knives, myself and Cheyenne. We're going to be hiring some more people to assist us in those uh, in those processes, and it's just kind of how it's a hurry up and wait situation, and then when it happens, hit the ground running.
Yeah. So so what you're saying here is that you guys are, well, you and Cheyenne, I'm guessing, are
Yeah.
all basically moving to Tennessee, or are you just gonna bounce
Uh,
back
we're,
and
we're
forth?
Yeah, we don't want to give exact location at this point, but we're expanding business down into Tennessee. So,
Nice.
um, I usually maintain multiple properties. So, yeah, we've got housing options down there as well.
Nice, very nice. Um, that's kind of cool. So growing big. So Axis on Main and St. Elmo, it's gonna be the same.
Yep.
Just under new management or
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be under new management. It's going to go from Dustin Rhodes Forge Works LLC. Um, my daughter Elizabeth, who has Ink Cap Tattoos, which is Ink Cap Tattoos LLC, uh, she and her husband are going to be taking it over, and then the Forge of Memory location. It's still going to be here, but it's going to be under different management and a different name.
Okay, that's cool. So you're saying a new and prosperous thing on for this upcoming year so far.
Oh yeah.
So
Um,
what does that mean for Dustin Rhodes, Forge Works customers, or anybody out there that's looking for something like from you? What does that mean for them? What are they be able to expect to get a hold of you? Still going to be producing your type of knives? Your website or just Facebook or I mean, what are they if they want to look up for Dustin Rhodes and says, hey, um, yeah, I lost my train of thought here. Sorry.
okay. So yeah, so basically what that means is the contact information is going to be the same, the location is going to change. Um, we we're experiencing business growth here, and um, Mike, I know you can relate to this. One of the things we're doing, we're looking at new projects and what is most profitable and finding the balance between what's most profitable and what you can move the most product at and still maintain a high quality, a high standard of quality in the product. So Cheyenne is actually going to be producing more stabilized handle material. Cheyenne, why don't you grab me some of that? Yeah.
Hey, let's pause on that real quick. We got to pay the bills here. It's got the the shop pays the bills. Something I got
Yep.
to start practicing here. I forgot to do it on the opening, but while we're waiting for the blocks, let's go ahead and talk about our sponsor here. Behind the Anvil is brought to you by Mike's Damascus Knives. Self plug. Why not? Because well, it's my show, and let's face it, the shop pays the bills. From handmade knives to hand for full tang working knives, friction folders, pocket knives, each blade crafted for one at a time with at the anvil. And I will try to get this right because it's the first time live read ad. So, I mean, laugh at it, make fun of me, whatever. I'm ad libbing to this too. So, want to make a knife on your own? I do offer knife making experiences here at the shop. So check us out at mikesdamascusknives.com or on Facebook at Mike's Damascus LLC, Mike D Knives on Instagram, American Bladesmith on the TikTok and on the YouTube channel. And I'm gonna have to do a little bit better at doing that. I don't read very well, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to. I got an idea. Put it up here above so I can just sit here and stare at it. So, yeah. Anyway, back to it, Dustin. We got some
Oh
wood.
yeah.
Who's
Okay.
got a
So
blade in his hand?
Cheyenne's going to be doing a lot more of the stabilized handle material because whether you're a knife enthusiast and you want to make your own knife, or whether you're a knife maker like myself, Cheyenne, yourself, a lot of our peers, um, when it comes down to it, you might not need to buy another knife. You make a lot of knives. I may not need to buy another knife. I'm going to, because knives are like guns, guitars, motorcycles. How many do you need? Always one more.
Mhm.
It's like, how many hammers do you need? As a bladesmith, always one more, right?
Right.
So Cheyenne is doing a lot of her materials, stabilized materials, hybrid materials, some weird stuff like stabilized dinosaur teeth and so forth. And you probably ought to cover that on some of her, some coverage with her. But uh, just in general, that's actually one of her pieces.
Nice.
But nice, high quality, high grade, professional quality handle material.
Nice.
Um, so she's actually getting a much larger area. We're going to be setting up a better vac system for her. And anyone who's watched any of our YouTube videos where she's been processing handle material, you also know that we don't have a vac system because we're using the same area we do for the forging, and we have to
Well,
go through and clean everything.
I was gonna say the
But
last time that happened, Dustin came out looking like a Smurf.
oh yeah, I've looked like a Smurf before. I've been all kinds of different colors from that. So,
Hey, you might
uh,
want to get that checked out by a doctor.
you
Um,
know, yeah, that
oh no.
putting in the back system
Oh, there we
for.
go. We froze for a second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But that's one reason we're looking at putting in the back system is not only for safety and health purposes, but also just for ease of maintenance. Um, the the production area is also going to be increased in size again. The old shop at the old home shop, which at one point we had some amazing Suber video from, that ended up getting taken down from being online anymore. It was about 840 square foot, so not huge, but the new shop is about 740 square foot, but it is going to be a lot more efficient. Um, the previous shop we were looking at being more modular, and we went through a lot of different phases where we were doing plasma cut, small scale production. We were doing a lot of projects like that, and did great at you know at sales and turning out product, because I mean, when it comes down to it, that's how we ended up with these businesses here, and buying these commercial buildings and so forth, the commercial properties. So
So that being said,
yeah,
um, well, we're looking at comedy. Comedy's kind of got on the rocks, you know. Hate to bring up a little bit of politics in this stuff right now, but you know,
right.
things happen. Iran got in the way. They effed around and found out for years. Well, somebody finally had the balls to say, "Hey, enough of your shit." I mean, there's different ways. This, that, this place, and that place, and this place, and blah, blah, blah. Who gives a shit? They need to be eliminated. But gas prices are going up. People are feeling a little pinch at the pump. Not a little extra money. You know, fuel goes up, groceries goes up. What we do is kind of a luxury item. So what
Right.
is, and we're seeing, I would say, what probably in the last year we've been seeing a lot of. Well, first of all, we've seen a lot of hobby people that got into forging fire, got into making knives, trying to turn a few out for a buck. Not a problem with that. Some were doing really good. We're seeing the prices of anvils come back down, tools come back down. Thank God. Um, so the Fortune Fire, woohoo, is starting to come down and level out. Granted, it's getting on new platforms, etc.
A lot more
So,
streaming platforms. Yeah.
that being said, with the economics that we've got going on, you know, food and everything else, what have you done, you and Cheyenne done, to kind of help flex with that, be flexible? I've been trying to learn how to flexible. I think I'm going to start doing a little bit of welding stuff because it seems like the fabrication of the stuff like
Mhm.
that. You see, shout out to Adelaide out of Maccabee Metals and Central Ohio Metalworks School. Shout out them. They've been doing a lot of that stuff. Like they offer a lot of classes, but they are also in a big city, so they have a big pool of people to pull in from, which is really cool compared to us. You live in a very rural area of Illinois. Unfortunately,
Right.
Illinois
Illinois.
is
We
Illinois.
called it Illinois until they finally said you got to drop the S. You're in junior high, you know. And I was like, hey, we have all these other silent letters. Why do we have to add S to it?
Right. So, what are you guys doing to, I guess you could say, the economic wave, the roller coaster, I guess.
Okay. Well, I mean, one thing we do, and there's a lot of signs in the shop that the economy is maybe not on the upsweep. Do I think it's doing better than it was? Clearly, yes. But am I using more recycled materials? Am I doing more leaf spring bowies and choppers? Am I using more, doing more primitive blades? You know, file steel blades, farrier's rasp bowies, cowboy knives, frontier style pieces. That's usually what I start looking into. Is when I start seeing when I start seeing sales slowing. They never stop. You know, at that point, do you start working towards, and this is one of Cheyenne's pieces, but do you start
Mm.
doing more of the blades that are not as fine finished? You know, in this case, you make it out of a file. This is from a double cut bastard file, and you want to leave some of that pattern on there. Well, that makes sense, but it's also a little more indicative of maybe not the greatest economy because you're not looking at a fine finish blade. You're not looking. It follows. This piece follows the theme of the blade. You know, we're looking at the rustic antler. This is actually dyed and stabilized elk antler, a pewter bolster, and then that high carbon file steel blade. It's a great piece. There's nothing wrong with it. But am I more likely in a better economy to finish out a knife that is going to be much cleaner in finish? You know, something that's essentially going to cost more for the bladesmith to make. You know, if I start doing more fine finish blades like this, like I said, that last one with Cheyenne's, with dyed and stabilized handle materials, poured pewter fittings, and I'm just going to go satin finish blades where I don't have any hammer marks or any essentially evidence of forging the piece, which never made sense to me. Take away the evidence of what you're really doing to produce a piece.
Right.
um,
And I'm glad you bring that up because that's something my dad kind of years ago was for, started looking at. It's like, he's grinding stuff. It's like, God, I'm grinding these knives down thinner than what they should be just to get rid of a hammer mark, which at the time was considered a flaw. Then it's like, well, wait a second. How can I prove 100% this is a hand forged knife with, forged an anvil and a
right.
hammer? And I leave a lot of my hammer marks in on a lot of them. Sometimes they get ground out. We're not like super hooper heavy hammer marks here, but there might be right here in the ricasso area or along the top of the blade, along the spine, into the
Kind of a
bolster.
brute to forge.
Yeah, similar to that. Still cleaned up a little bit. But yeah, I was going somewhere with that, and my ADHD is a bitch. Speaking of ADHD, if you're watching this, you're like, why is he wearing a captain's uniform? Well, hey, first time in our lifetime, there's people about ready to go around the moon. I can't believe they actually launched on April 1st. That was really cool. I don't know if you caught that or not. We're going to plug that. Um, what's really cool is my mom and dad actually got a piece of meteorite. It was from the moon. A gentleman that my dad deals with does a lot of high-end meteorites and stuff like that. And it was actually authenticated by NASA chemically that these two little tiny pieces are from as moon rock. Nice. How cool is that?
Cool.
Um,
Very cool.
I know there's a lot of people out there saying, we're not doing this. We can't go out in outer space that far. The Van Allen belt. You see all these comments. We never went to the moon. Blah blah. Like, I look at those people like, you have no imagination.
Yeah.
I mean, where's your stance on that? Did we go to the moon the first time?
A little questionable on that, but we may never know. I've seen a lot of conspiracy videos that say no, it didn't happen. Others say yes, it did. And you start. I don't know. I think the thing to do would be compare a modern video to what we had then.
Mm-hmm.
I I just have a feeling that there's probably a notable difference.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people don't realize the physics on the moon is a little different than here on Earth.
I
Um,
would think so.
I mean, it's literally outer space. Get
I've
it?
only been
Outer.
there a couple times. And that's because I ate the wrong gummy. So you know,
Yeah. Don't leave me unattended. We don't. Just for a minute, we don't advise if you're adult recreation candies, make sure you're 21 above, and in legal state you can do so. And don't leave Michael unattended at Dustin's place. Anyway, there's a long story there. We'll get into that maybe
we
later
should
today.
get
I
into
don't
that
know.
one sometime, but maybe not tonight.
I'll never do that again. For my defense, I was left unattended.
You were
Um,
left unsupervised.
okay, back. We'll circle back. You've worked with me.
Economics and
Speaking of
variation.
Yes. Speaking of
Yeah,
outer space, you have worked with Meteorite before.
yeah.
Still was funny as shit. Here, I got you something for you. Dropped it in your hand. You about hit the fucking floor because how heavy it was. And that's what she said.
Cheyenne's going, yeah.
You know why it looks so big for short people? Because they're short. It just looks bigger.
Yeah, I mean, it works for me. I mean, I got shorter legs, and in contrast, anyway.
You guys went outside. Dustin,
So,
continue on what you were talking. I'll be right back. I got to let
yeah.
the dogs outside.
So, like, one thing I notice in the shop when I start seeing that maybe sales aren't coming out as great as what I had hoped, at least they're starting to slip a little bit, and we see seasonal peaks and valleys, highs and lows, and so forth. Um, One thing I'll note is I start buying zirconium. I buy zirconium belts instead of ceramic. That's a pretty good indicator that we're going to not be turning out as fine a product as what we were. Um, some zirconium belts I don't have an issue with. Some ceramic belts are better than others.
Yeah.
But what it comes down to is generally consumables.
Mm-hmm.
That consumables start to, well, like you were talking about, fuel prices and how that affects uh, groceries and everything else. Well, your consumables in your shop really start to affect how the product, the quality of the product that you're turning out. So if I start going with a 36 or 80 grit zirconium belt, then I'm probably not going to be turning out as many, or because they're not going to last as long generally. I'm not going to be turning out as many pieces, or I'm not going to be turning out as many high quality pieces.
Well, I
So
use
that's
the
kind of a
zirconium
good
belt.
indicator right there.
Well, the zirconium belt's a lot better than the aluminum oxide belts. Now,
Yeah, absolutely. And if I get down to aluminum oxide heavy grit, I know I've made some bad choices business wise.
right. Um, or you got on or you were left unattended in the gun store with a lot of extra pocket cash. Now that's happened before.
Oh,
So,
that happens a lot. Yeah.
um, well, hey, well, speaking of belts, let's do a shout out to our friend up there at Phoenix Abrasive, Sean Ryan. Make sure if you're looking to get belts and any kind of sandpaper, really, they've covered you from grinding knives to sanding wood. That's wood like for tables and such like that. I mean, if you're into the sanding the wood and the that, hey, mental health, there's
You do
mental health.
you. Yeah.
Do you? Anyway, Sean Ryan is the guy you want to talk to when you call Phoenix Abrasive. Make sure you ask for Sean Ryan and make sure you mention the promo code Jasmine, and he will know who you sent. Will it get you a discount? Probably not. Or you can try it on the promo code on their website as well. But call and talk to Sean. Anyway, back to it, Dustin. Remember, promo code Jasmine. If he starts
So,
laughing, you'll know why.
one of the things I see in myself and other makers, and it seems to be a commonplace, is that we start going from finer finished blades, maybe finer finished with Hamon and so forth, to blades that are more forged to finish, something that requires
Hey,
less
Dustin,
stock
let's
removal.
take five real quick. We're going to take a quick break. I got to step outside and see what the hell's going on out here.
Gotcha.
So, be right back after these messages. All right, we're back from that little break. Sorry, had to step outside and see what the hell is going on. People moving equipment. What's an equipment? Do you know what an equipment is?
I think that's a word that gets made up in the home shop when people have had too much to drink and are overly
No,
sober.
that's sober because I couldn't spell sober when I was texting somebody. Okay, you know. Oh, that was good times. We need to do that again. Probably not so much drinking this time because I'm getting fatter and older, and yeah. Anyway, back to it. Where were we?
Looking at different, things that we see change in the shop and with ourselves as makers and other makers when there's when the economy changes. Um, One of the things I see is changing changes in material. Are you going to use are you using 5160? Are you cutting leaf spring instead? When you're doing Damascus, are you ordering 1084 and 15 and 20, or are you cutting uh what's it sawmill bandsaw blades up and
15 and
using
20.
what's that?
15
15
and
and 20.
20.
Yeah.
And also, speaking of steels, regardless of how, if you're a knife maker out there, be honest where you're getting your materials from and be honest what you're doing. If you're from a knife kit assembly, if you're a knife assembler, not really a knife maker, be honest with your customers what they're doing. There's a reason why I'm bringing that up because there's been a pretty upheaval in the knife making world, and I'll tell you what, the knife makers out there will correct each other. So, anyway, that just being said, let's be honest where we get our material from and what we're doing.
Fair enough. I mean, when it comes down to it, now it can happen where you're like, hey, I've got miscellaneous high carbon steels here that maybe you've got a combination of 1075, you got some 1084, some 1095, and just 10 series high carbon steels uh, that are mixed up, and you decide to turn out some hunting knives. You say, hey, I'm at least going to use up some of my end cuts or some of my remnants from other projects. It's always good to be like, hey, this is a high carbon steel. We've got that part covered. Is it a
Hmm.
10 series? Is it, is it something that's going to have more chromium in it, like a 5160, 52100, something like that? You're probably going to know that from how the material works as a maker when you're doing it. You're probably going to be able to go, hey, uh, at 1075 and that 5160 definitely do not work. They don't work the same under the hammer. They don't feel the same. They don't move the same. But
Definitely.
at the same time,
You're not getting bumpers or road signs and
right,
some of
right.
those countries overseas that are flooding the markets with $45 Damascus knife.
Damascus, yeah, and that's the thing is it's like Mike, I know you make your own Damascus. We make a good portion of our Damascus, but we also source it from Alabama Damascus at different times.
Ooh, I need to get them
Uh,
guys on here. That's a good idea.
oh yeah, get Brad on there. Um, but when it comes down to it, we know what we're putting together. I have had people say, "Hey man, I want a Harley Davidson chain." Well, you bring me a Harley chain and I will, I'll forge you one up. How's that any different than the composition of any other roller chain? I really can't answer that,
I
but
would say that probably the steel on that is probably a lot more, the specs level on it's a little higher for higher resistant, more
it
strength.
might be,
So,
depending upon what the branding is. I mean, when you think about it, if it's like roller chain from a hoist, it's going to have to be, I mean, it's going to have to be durable.
yeah,
Just
tough,
because
tough, not hard. There's a difference between
yeah,
toughness and hard. Everyone's like, oh, I want that really hard. No, you don't.
no, good way to end up with two blades out of one knife that way.
Yes.
Or
Been there, done that.
oh yeah, I think we all have at some point. And actually, I think I did that on a YouTube video fairly recently. And yep, I've still got the pieces over there. I had to reforge one portion, made a sword blade, and ended up making two knives out of it after I heat treated it. It
So
was
you're saying,
my
so
own
you're
fault
saying
on
there's
that.
not really a broken blade, there's just two knives?
It's kind of like in our shop. Do we ever make mistakes? No. Do we ever make last minute design changes? It happens.
Or a
You know,
smaller knife?
it happens.
That's funny. Speaking of YouTube, I've noticed that you haven't done much lately on that, and that's because behind the scenes, opening new businesses up,
Oh yeah.
traveling and such like that. Can people
We've had
expect to see more educational videos coming from you and Cheyenne? More maybe dabble in the shorts more than just the whole length videos. I mean, that's seems to work for me pretty good. The shorts are
Well,
definitely still where they're at because people, doom scrolling at night and, et
mhm.
cetera. So, what can we expect from the Dustin Rhodes and Cheyenne CB Bonework?
Well, first to backtrack a little bit, we have been very busy between getting ready to make this move forward with the business, and then we've also been dealing with. I'm just going to say some medical maintenance. I had dental work done last year, which I probably should be wearing those teeth as much as I paid for them. And I think it's a
Let's go
17th
to the
of,
fact that he ate the last brownie in the fridge, and Cheyenne hit him with a frying pan, knocked all his teeth out.
well, when they're
Well,
special brownies, it
yeah,
requires
they had the
special
sprinkles
attention.
on them. Don't ever touch the little daddy
Yeah.
sprinkles.
So, like in a couple weeks, I'm going to be going in for LASIK. So, unfortunately, I'm going to be out for a little bit because of the amount of dust that we produce in here. Here's some more of that if you'd like to see. And that's the coarse stuff. That's not the fine stuff that they're really worried about. But smoke and smoke and dust and things like that are going to be out for a relatively short amount of time, but longer than I would generally be out of the shop. Um, but we've also been getting geared up for the move forward, as we said, or as I said, rather. Um, in the future, I would expect more videos that are probably geared towards specific projects. Like we did a lot of live feeds, getting 50,000 views because Cheyenne was grinding over here, and frankly, her ass is better to look at than mine. Um,
I was gonna
even
say
if it
she's
is
better to look
covered in dust
better
from,
looking. She's better to look at overall. Really, come on. I mean, look at.
well, yeah, but I'm the sexiest tattooed bald man you've ever met. So now leave a comment on that, I'm sure. Uh,
Wow, wow, wow.
but we've been kind of quiet about what we've been doing. We had people who were going, "Hey, why aren't you doing your weekly online auctions on Facebook?" Well, we had some stuff come up. So that's really kind of hit the wayside. We haven't been doing as many online sales, at least I haven't, because I've been focusing on this next step that we're taking. So what you can expect in the future will probably be like some tips and tricks. How do you go from drift? How do I go about drifting a ball peen hammerhead eye to a tomahawk handle? Tomahawk drift efficiently and effectively. Um, how do I go about finishing out blades and I'm going to put it like introductory level. What we produce in bulk for like our basic hunters and so forth. A good satin finish, what I would call a reasonable satin finish, something that is probably comparable to whatever you're going to pick up at your local sporting goods store.
Just real quick on that satin finish. For those who are not listen familiar, maybe just stumble on the show or not really familiar with the different finishes of a blade, what is a satin finish for those who might be going, what is he talking about?
Satin finish is generally a clean finish, so you don't have any visible hammer marks. Um, it's reflective, but it is not reflective in the case of like a mirror polish. Where a mirror polish you can see yourself in. A satin finish is, this one has a little bit of wax on it, but this would be representative of a satin finish. A reasonably clean finish, all your scratches going in the same direction, which is essentially what polishing is. But maybe something where you don't use it to check your hairline or something, which I still can't find where mine went. So
Now, for me, for a satin finish, what I'll do is do the same thing, bring it up there, and then do a light acid etch on it where it just sits
mhm.
maybe a one dip, 20, 30 minutes just to get it kind of like an I would say if you used an old chef knife, and over the years they get that nice patina to it,
Yeah.
which also helps protect it a little bit. It will still rust. If you're not careful with it and leave water on it, it'll still burn through
But you've
that.
got a protective oxide
Yes.
layer.
Yep. So I just got thinking, hey, that's a great educational moment. There you go. The more you know. Back to you, Dustin.
Now for myself, if I do an etch after that, I'm generally doing a more of an antique finish and trying to get a little bit of a mottled effect to it, which there's different ways to go about that. But everybody's got their own processes on that. And I think that's really where custom knife making comes in, to where it's like, oh, I've got a stone wash finish. Mike, how do you do a stone wash finish?
I got a cement mixer right here. Throw it in the thing and
Yeah.
no.
So you actually have a means of mechanical stimulation on that, where
And
it
that's what
is
she said.
it's changing. And do you use an acidic solution in that?
I etch them first. Usually either in muriatic acid. I'll hit them with muriatic acid real heavy, or with a slight vinegar, ferric chloride. Look at me try to use words late. This is late in the evening.
Perchloride.
Ferric chloride solution, and then I'll dump it in the gravel with a little bit of. I've dumped a little bit of vinegar in with it and some dish soap. Sometimes, or just straight
Yeah.
a solvent of some sort.
Now myself, when I do a stone wash finish, mine's more of an acid wash finish, where I'm trying to get an irregular an irregular etch, not on depth, but just on oxide. So I've got some different ways of going about that myself as well, you know. Um, and that's kind of where it comes into on the future videos on what to expect would be different types of acid etch. I should say etched finishes,
And
really,
then as we
because
refer
we've also done
acid,
etched
like stuff
finishes
we
using
actually put the knives
electrochemical.
in.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to
Um,
put that in there. But
but basically, it's going to have to do not so much with I'm going to create this one product right here. This is something I'm taking to Blade Show, like you might see on Kyle Royer or That Works or any of the channels that I love to watch on YouTube. Um, but more along the lines of, hey, if you have just started out, or maybe you're just looking for a different path to take, uh, a different option, a different technique, here's something you might try. There's more than one way to get from point A to point B. I mean, what your dad probably did for heat treat on Damascus back in the 1980s is not what we do today.
used to send them off to somewhere else that had a professionally done some.
Yeah. Um, Metallurgical knowledge has made leaps and bounds in the past several decades. And then with going back to Forged in Fire, when awareness, and that's what it was, when awareness was made about the art, about the processes, more people got involved. There was more experimentation, and some of those people who were, you know, I don't want to say amateur, but first timers for the most part, some of them came up with some stuff that the rest of us had overlooked. Or maybe some of us had forgot about. Mike, how long you been doing this?
Well, I'm 40, going to 41, so about 30, 31 years since I was 10 years old. I grew up around it. So didn't pay attention as much as I should have when I was a kid, but hey, when you just want to burn shit up and, you know,
Yeah.
cut a tree down.
Well, and I've been doing this for, okay, Cheyenne's telling me it's going to be 33 years. I think 33 years in September, somewhere around there. And the guys like I grew up around were frontier reenactors. So I really had to take what I was being told with a grain of salt, that if you wanted a hard blade, you used water. If you wanted a tough blade, you used oil. And I said, I don't think that's quite right. But, you know, of course, we also went through the draw tempering, you know, and not that I don't do draw tempering at times on some primitive pieces, but generally, to get martensite to transform into tempered martensite, It takes a little more than a draw temper, but um, there's a lot of probably a lot of ABS mastersmiths that blue backed or gray backed their test blades, you know.
Oh yeah,
And
definitely, definitely.
did it work? Yeah, it did. Um, is it a is it one means to get a soft back and a hard edge? Yeah, it is. Are there other ways to do that? Can we do refractory backed prior to quenching, so that we insulate that and that it doesn't harden? We can do that. Um, the oh, Mike, what is the term for it? Using a torch just to zone heat the
Oh,
edge?
the differential tempering, or blue
Well,
back.
I mean for the quench. So your
Oh,
differential hardening.
yes, differential
Yeah,
hardening. Yeah.
your differential hardening where you only heat a portion of the blade. Um, and then of course there's a matter of, are you going to go into something along the lines of doing a composite welded blade to where you have a harder steel for the edge or for the core if it's laminated, um, than what you're going to have for the rest of, you know, the face of the blade, the sides of the blade, the spine of the blade, perhaps even the tang. Um, there's so many creative outlets, not outlets. There are so many creative options in that outlet that can be explored. Um, one video I did, I've got some super quench back here I use for railroad spike knives when people come in to do
And
the
speaking of
forging.
railroad spike knives,
Yeah.
we're going to do a shout out to Atlas Atlas Knife and Tool, where they are now producing basically the
Cheyenne,
equivalent
bring me
of
one
a
of those.
1080 railroad spike, which is a little more high carbon than your standard railroad.
Absolutely. And I've got a whole case full of them. Cheyenne's going to bring me one.
And you can
Uh,
check that episode out right here on Behind the Anvil on all of your podcasts. It was just actually, I think we just released it.
and they are marked AK&T right there. I got
Nice.
like 30 of these. I traded to Charles. I traded a knife to Charles to get these year before last at Robbie's forging festival, Smoky Mountain Knife Works, and I was like, I'm going to go through and use all these up, and I did a couple spike tomahawks, and I always thought it was cool to have a railroad spike knife, but wow, what if I had one that held a really good edge and like was less likely to bend? And the 1080, and they, from what I understand, they actually tested like a 1078.
I
If you
think
want to put a
so.
Hamon on that, you absolutely can. You know,
What
there's so
and
much you
the
can do with that.
Yes, and also it gives your customer, being a high carbon working heat treated, actually be heat treated and tempered, so you actually are getting a knife, which is really cool now. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
you're-
it really is a railroad spike knife
yep.
instead of a railroad spike letter opener or whatever you want to call it.
So
But
let's dive into that real quick.
yeah,
How now, me and Charles, we discussed about how he came up with that. They are cast; they're cast steel.
hmm
How is cast any when you think of cast steel, like, oh, but that's a totally different kind of formula. How is it the forge? Have you had any proxy where the steel
issues
kind
with
of comes
porosity.
unglued? Porosity. Good Lord. Words are
The
hard,
only
people.
No, I have not had any issue with that at all. And I was really surprised. Back in, I mean, once more going back to YouTube videos, that was something that I commented on, and then I was like, "Oh, these must be forged," because I mean, we've all, well, we all, I'm going to say myself, you, Cheyenne, we've all tried to reforge a hammerhead at some point and found out that it was cast and have it turn into hot mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not sure this is going to work. And it did. Now, it was suggested at one point to use those 10, I'm just going to call it 1078 high carbon spikes from Atlas Knife and Tool for forging classes. And the reason that we do not, one, those spikes are about $10 a piece, and then the ones I've got over here that I think I paid $2 for are the brand new 1040 or whatever spikes that are much more forgiving. If you've got someone who's brand new, you know, over here doing their deal, and you hit that spike over there too cool, you're going to probably fracture it out. You're going to cause a problem. Twisting those up. The one problem I found was doing the twist on them was that with those sharp edges, if it cools too much or there's too much stress, they do have a tendency to tear. So I generally grind them down a little bit. The other thing is you can take that, you can forge it out, kind of consolidate that, maybe compress that a little more, elongate it more. And what I found is that I get a better result and less little micro fractures on the edges of that twist. And that is something that I generally don't encounter, you know, when I'm using just a regular railroad spike. Now, this might end up being a knife-like object or a stake turner or God knows what, but hey, man, a lot of us started out making railroad spike knives, and a lot of us are really getting into the nostalgic aspect of now I can go back and make me a really good one.
True. And then for those that say, you can't own railroad spikes, yes, you can. You just can't go to a railroad and pull them off the rail line, which
Yeah,
we do
not a
not
good idea.
recommend.
Don't do that. That's illegal and not safe. So,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, get a hold of Atlas Knife and Tool and get you some of those spikes. You'll have a great time. Now, the one time I really had an issue
At band camp, you said one
uh,
time. I had to say it.
No, it wasn't Bandcamp. One time I had an issue with one of the Atlas Knife and Tool spikes was I was doing a live video on YouTube, and it ended up getting taken down, like shut down, because someone claimed that he had what?
He came up and copyrighted.
He copyrighted quenching.
Yeah.
And I had said quenching, and I'm like, no. Well, by the time they found out this guy was a complete moron who was claiming this, I had already, you know, the video was deleted. It was gone. And I'm like, well, in the process, I decided to do 3 spike knives, one in oil, one in a brine solution, and then I think I did one as a hamon, and I as maybe like an interrupted water quench or something.
And if somebody doesn't understand for what a brine solution, what that is it's called super quenching, where you take water and you mix really heavy salt in it. Some people will put Clorox in with it, do a chlorine salt for a super
Well,
quench,
yeah, I mean,
or you can do straight
there's
line
different ways
water.
to do. The one I was doing, I was actually doing hot water with rock salt. Well, the
Yes.
problem is when I did that, and it said you could brine quench 1078. I'm not going to recommend it because I ended up with like a broken blade. I really did. I mean, the thing, it shattered.
Wow.
Like I had big cracks, and then I finally just took it, and I was not real thrilled about my video being taken down, and just kind of bam, it went everywhere. So I had
Kind of
some
like your
pieces that
video.
still take-
Bam! Out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
Trademark
it was
quenching.
hard.
Really? Okay.
What's that?
Somebody should claim that he trademarked quenching. Oh,
Yes.
please.
Yeah, God only knows. I'm sure his mom was bringing him Pop-Tarts later in the basement. But anyway, as it goes, that was one point where I had a failure with it, and I was really kind of upset. I was like, okay, one, there was a $125 knife I just lost. That was my mistake because I did a brine quench on it, and frankly, I probably should have agitated more, or I should have had the water hotter, or God knows what. But it didn't work out in my favor. And the other thing was, even though I lost a $125 knife, which you know and I know, is really not, I mean, that's like on the low end of what you're going to sell. I lost that video, going, hey, guys, don't do this. You just saw me mess up. But there was another video I did. I had some 1045 that I got, it came into the shop and got traded for some work. And I was like, well, 1045 is not my ideal material for a knife. But you know what? I'm going to have some fun with it. I got a 10 series shallow hardening steel, and I have a batch of super quench. Now, the super quench that we use is about 4.5 gallons of water, 5 pounds of salt, 32 ounces of Dawn dish detergent, and 8 ounces of jet dry. And this stuff does harden up some relatively soft steels like the horseshoes, or the best results we get are probably on the railroad spike knives made out of regular railroad spikes. But I decided to refractory back a 1045 blade because I had a little piece of this steel, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to take this little cut off and forge a blade out of it. So I did a couple normalization cycles on it, or a normalization cycle and then my grain refinement additional cycles. Refractory backed it with some of the refractory patching that I use for like my Atlas forge back here, and brought it up to temperature and quenched it in super quench. Did not oil quench it, did not water quench it, did not. It technically is slippery brine. That's what they were often referred to in the older text, where it was a soapy salt water essentially. But I super quenched it, and I'm going, this is either going to make a really cool pattern when it completely fractures off here, or it might give me a pretty cool result on the Hamon. And after cleaning it up, which there were two 36 grit scratches that I did not, well, they may have been 80s because I would have already had it cleaned down to that. A couple 80 grit scratches that I didn't get out, so they etched a little deeper, and I let people know about that. I think I had one crack at the very tip that I ended up grinding out. And it turned out to be a pretty cool looking little knife. It's just something that I'm going to be super proud of. I don't even think I put my name on it, to be totally honest. I don't think I marked it, but I did let people know what it was, how it was produced. Because there's some people, when you say, hey, I'm going to do a water quench, or I'm going to do a brine quench, they go, oh man, you are looking at more potential for failure on that. But I'm not going to say it's a learning curve. It's more a matter of, can I do it? Well, it's like using that meteorite. It is, it's not the easiest material to work. How would you, how would you describe working meteorite?
Well, forging. Well, that's a good question. Um, Canister. With this meteorite that I got, you definitely want to use canister.
Right.
It
Yeah.
because it's out of Brazilian. It's actually out of Brazil, and when it was tested, assayed, and everything came out like it should. But forging it, I remember Dad using it. He used the other half. He gifted the other half to me as a gift. He forged it, stacking it up, and he had to shut everything down, clean it off between each fold and everything. It come unglued. Just something really weird about this particular meteorite. Now in the canister, 1095. I'll bring it up. I'll forge weld it all together. Now with this, I'll stretch it out to a bar. I'll lightly grind off the canister a little bit. I like to leave like paper thin of the canister on there, which is mild steel. And the reason why I do that, it gives a little more contrast between it because I already got 1095 in there. And I'm also planning when I do that, I usually do a um, a high carbon core like 5160. It just 5160 on that. They just I don't know what it is. They have a love fest with each other, and it just forge welds together beautifully. Um, I did find out if you try to use 01 for the thing, you can split it right down the middle, which I had a couple of knives start doing that. I did not know what was going on till I tripped out to Columbus, Ohio, out there at Adelaide's shop, and they were talking about it, and I was like, oh, ding, ding, that's where it was. It was just a little tiny split in the back that was I was able to grind out a little bit. It didn't split all the way down in, but that's something you really can't do with the 01 and the 1095. 1084, great core material, especially doing kumai. Um, I'm gonna challenge you when you get set up in the new place and everything.
Okay.
Your challenge is to come up with a really good kumai billet. So,
Okay.
for those who don't know what kumai billet is, you have your core material of whatever high carbon you choose. Definitely want to go thin layers. Then you put a thin cut per layer, and then your jacket and metal of whatever you might want to be, either Damascus, rough iron, whatever you want to put on top of that, cable Damascus, etc. And you don't forge weld together. You basically, because well, what happens when you try to forge weld kumai? What's going to happen?
Well, one, you got to have it welded around the entire perimeter because your copper is more conductive to heat than what the iron alloys are. So the
And
more
it's a lower temperature. So if you try to go in there and go forge welding a kumai billet, what's going to happen, Dustin?
that copper is going to run right out. So essentially it's more of a brazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's where I'll tell you what, you want to sweat your bullets off trying to watch that color. Even with the laser gun, it it'll test you like a teenage daughter will. It'll test you,
Oh
your
yeah.
patience. But anyway, there's your challenge when you get set up for the new place.
Okay.
So, but yeah, on the meteorite. Now when it comes to grinding the blade, um, definitely ceramic all the
Yeah.
way. It. I mean, I do annealing, everything else, even though I fold it and everything else, it just does something to the aluminum oxide and the zirconium. Well, it's kind of like if you took copper and aluminum mixed together with some high carbon in there, only really
Mhm.
super high carbon, maybe like a stainless. It's kind of weird if you try to grind it with those. It feels weird, and you're gonna burn up belts. Now you're gonna put the work to it on your ceramic belt, but it's gonna cut clean and good. Definitely, I recommend personally a 60 grit ceramic doing it. Because the 36 grit or 40 grit will leave a lot of deeper marks in, which is
Right.
because your meteorite, yes, it has iron in it, it has nickel in it, it's got a few other weird alloys in there. There's something else in there. I can't remember what else was in there, but you want to get the high nickel iron content meteorites. Now, I'm just saying that for the stuff that I've got,
Right.
um, uh, was it the Gideon meteorite out of Africa? That's the Gideon, right? I can't remember.
Valor.
What's that?
Was it Valor?
I think there's Gideon as well. I might have my term. Somebody out there know what we're talking about meteorite, know their stuff about meteorite. Drop us a comment or wherever you're listening to us. Let us know on that, please. But it's interesting stuff to work with, and it after again, shout out to Sean. I called him up and says, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm having some issues, and I had the same kind of issue with some high carbon, like some like if I'm doing like a big brute, heavy duty, um, spring steel knife, where I forge it down from
Mhm.
3/8 down to leaving it like heavy quarter, and I'm doing some heavy grinding. Definitely ceramic belts to go because I found out lasts longer and everything else. The thinner stuff will work better, but just on that, it's just really weird to work with.
Yeah.
And again, learning curve. Even though I grew up around it, Dad, he uses ceramic belts now. One thing you do want to do when you're using ceramics, make sure you're wearing a face mask, a dust mask, have some ventilation, Dustin. Uh, so. That's my experience. And now you've worked with it yourself. Is that something that sounds similar to what you've done with yours?
Well, I'll tell you one thing I noticed was that with that particular meteorite, that there were a lot of little micro fractures in it. That stuff's been going through space and God only knows what temperatures. Um, was some really cool material to work with. The first time I worked with it, I did canister, and I put more meteorite in there than what I should have.
That's what she said.
And when I started drawing it out, it was not. I mean, everything was welded up, but the problem is the meteorite just did not work as well in those larger chunks, kind of like you were talking about earlier on. Um, so what I ended up doing was the first billet I ended up cutting and then taking it apart, essentially cutting it apart and using less meteorite. So I sent some of that actually out to Ryu Lim. He was wanting to use some meteorite and something. I'm like, hey
Shout
man,
out
I'm
to
gonna
Ryu.
and so my first successful billet, rather, I took the not so successful billet, cut it up into sections, and I put it into a canister with 1095 powder. And I wanted something structural that was strong and had a good contrast as well, because a meteorite gives you good contrast, really does. So I added some 15 and 20 pieces of 15 and 20. Forge welded that up. Now I didn't have my press yet, so this was working the material. I wish I had a billet I could. But basically, I had to hammer on one side, turn 90, and work back and forth to get everything pushed together. Um, Once I got that done, I went ahead and I stretched that billet out, cut the ends, ground off the canister. Um, and I was like, I'm really concerned about the structural integrity of this because of how that meteorite was coming apart initially. So I made another canister and I took my pieces of canister Damascus that I've drawn out and cut up into tiles. And I put it down in the canister with 1095 powder again. And I think I may or may not have added, I think I did on that one, added a little more 15 and 20. Not a lot, just enough so that those tiles would have something to weld to. And the final result you can see on page 227 of Knives 2023. That recurve is the result of that billet. Now, I did a couple other billets, and I cannot say that I can't say that if I didn't have the time, I wouldn't do more meteorite Damascus as canister because it's just cool. I can look at that blade and where I was talking about the microfractures that was in the heavy vein, if you would, the heavy layer of meteorite. Well, when I added more 1095 powder, it actually, it filled in where it welded. So you can see those fractures, but it's not a fracture. It's nothing to compromise it structurally. It's literally where it was welded back together in the canister. So it's pretty cool. I've got the knife over there in the case, and for 12 grand, somebody can take it home. But
yeah, I was gonna say, and it's doesn't that one got a special handle on it?
That one does. It's a meteorite Damascus blade, and then it's got 100+ year old wrought iron fittings and human femur bone for the handle.
And that's a retired medical specimen.
That is a
removed
retired
from somebody in
medical
the back.
specimen. I was going to source my own, but then the guy ended up paying me the money, so I didn't have to. So
Jokes, people. We got jokes here.
now I did do one that I called Spirit Damascus, where, and this is probably creepy for some people. The inner part of that bone is very, it's kind of like a network, it's quite fine. And I was grinding and drilling that out and filing it out to fit that up. Well, I saved the bone dust from that femur and I mixed it in with some.
I was kind of worried about you're going with some bone dust there, going somewhere with that. Sorry. No, we're not
I
doing
mixed that
lines
in
of
with my
human femur
flux
bone
when
dust
I
off
did
the
some wet
anvil.
welds on some Damascus, and so I called it Spirit Damascus since it just something else,
Well,
just
you know
something to
what? Let's
try.
talk about that because I remember you were, I can't remember if you did that live or not, but there was some weird stuff that happened during that. I mean, literally did the knife open up or was it the canister open up? Like I remember there's a story behind this and I can't remember how it went, but more or
Well,
less it forged funny. The billet kind of cracked and there was some weird stuff going on in the shop. Tell
the
us about that.
so when I was doing that billet, I had I did it not it wasn't San Mai, but I had three different layers of fairly high layer count Damascus that I was forge welding together to make the blade. And I think it ended up being it was a push dagger actually. And so as I was doing this, um, yeah, I was working on the piece, and it's like, hey, everything's working real well. And then it was, I guess the term for it would be it delaminated, and then I had to add more flux to it, and it closed back up, and it welded up real nice after that. But it was really kind of odd when that happened because
And wasn't that
it
after
worked.
the initial weld? Is what you
Yeah,
were saying?
after the initial weld, it was like, oh, this is solid, and then it opened up more. It didn't like open up like something was coming. That
Ah!
yeah, I
That's a
mean,
great.
it wasn't like the old what was it? The Filipino smiths that would explain, or was it the Japanese smiths that oh, there's a flaw here in the blade? Well, it was forged with too much spirit, and some of the spirit had to open it up to get out or something. Wasn't quite like that by any means, but it was just kind of odd how it was like, wow, this forge, because uh, if you have your weld boundary slip, if you have it slide, it, you feel it, you see it happen. You can feel it when it happens,
So
and
you
it
were
wasn't
taking
quite like that.
so you took the cadaver bone, femur bone. There was leftover ground up a little bit of that. You mix it in with the powdered steel and as well as the flux as well.
Yeah,
Um, didn't you say there was some weird vibes going on in that shop too? There was just
in
like
that shop there was always some weird vibes.
But especially that is true. There's some weird stuff at the old place,
Yeah.
the old shop. I remember you were saying something that's just like there was a light kind of flickered a little bit here and there when you were working on it.
Yeah, I mean, like there was some different stuff that happened. I mean, I kind of got used to it. That particular property, when I moved in and I was cleaning out the basement, I found a headstone, and it was probably 1860s, 1870s, and I was like, it just had initials on it. And so I called the previous owner, and I was like, "Hey, man, how's it going?" And I was cleaning out the basement, and I found something, and he goes, "Yep." I said, "Okay, where'd it come from?" He said, "We don't know. It was here when we bought the place." Because I thought, he had a teenage son and a teenage daughter that, kids go and do stupid things. Maybe they went out and stole a headstone. And he's like, no. And I'm like, so can you tell me, is there a body on the property? And he's like, I don't know. And I asked some of the other people who had been around the area, and they really couldn't tell me anything about it. But I was out driving around one day, and I found a cemetery with similar headstones. Like one of the little, you wonder how they managed to get that many people in that small of an area at the time, but from a long time ago. And it was a couple miles from the house. I was like, well, maybe that came from there, or maybe that was damaged and then they brought it back and for some reason put it in the basement for people to find decades later and go, what the hell is this?
Kind of
But
like
I
people
don't know.
hiding, remodeling their kitchen and hide a skeleton in the empty space of their cupboards.
Right. So, yeah, there was, It was something interesting. I'll be totally honest. I've done quite a few projects with human bone, legally acquired and legal to do so in this state at least. And one thing I can say is that, like, when I first said, "Hey, I'm going to, I'm going to, I'm going to do this," I'm going to commit to this project. I'm going to make the purchase. I'm going to get this stuff brought in. I was a little freaked out about it because I'm like, man, is this something I want in my home? You know, if you want a happy home, keep it a happy home. Don't introduce unhappy people, unhappy situations, or what, you gotta
Or
be
invite
respectful.
certain things of the paranormal that are not good for your home.
I'm sure there's not, and I'd like to avoid that. So I was a little weirded out by it. So I took the stuff out to the shop, and I'm like, okay, well, I feel a little better. I'm going back inside. It was just kind of it was just kind of creepy. That's what it was. It was creepy. And then I got used to it because I thought about it. It's not like it's a retired medical specimen. So it's not like somebody went up and hacked a limb off somebody and then
Or gray robbed.
or robbed a grave or anything like that. In fact, I can't even say that was a result of a person passing because it could have been an amputation. But what I do know is that being it's a retired medical specimen, and those pieces that we have are retired medical specimens, is that whoever originally owned it, okay, they were okay with that going to where it went to medical institutes, or a medical institution, an educational institution, so other people would learn from it and help others and save lives. Not only was that person who was the original owner of it okay with it, but their family had, if it came from someone who did pass, their family had to be okay with that to happen as well. So I thought about it and I was like, okay, so I'm going to look at this from a little different standpoint now. I'm going to look at it as not so much, oh, here's a part of a dead person. We're all going to die at some point. But, if that's been over 60 years ago that it was prepared, the person is most likely no longer with us. Okay. But going with if what I'm going to
Well, I
do
would
is,
certainly hope so if you're using part of it.
right. So what I'm going to go with is that this is going to give a new life being appreciated in art. Some people had a really big problem with that. Oh, I guess you can just buy these remains. Yeah, you can. I had people come up to me at shows. One, guys, I always carry a gun. I've always got at least one on me. And Mike and I have talked about this, and I'm not going to go into details on those scenarios, but sometimes it's necessary for safety, right? All
Yeah.
right, cool.
Even in your
Uh,
shop when you're working alone, you got your back turned to the grinder. You know, I keep my shop door locked so nobody
yep.
gets in while I'm working, but
People do show up, and sometimes they are not there for business. But I was at a show, and I had somebody come up to me and said, "That's illegal." I said, "How's it illegal?" "You can't do that. That's illegal." I said, "Well," I said, "how many human femurs do you have?" "Well, two." "Well, I guess we're going to have to arrest your ass, aren't we?" You know, the funny thing is, when I had people coming up and giving me a hard time about this, part of the time I had a badge in my back pocket. So it was kind of like, no, I'm probably a little more aware of this than you are, clearly, but some people got absolutely offended by it, which I like to pride myself, much like you do, Mike, in being able to offend nearly anybody at request.
uh,
So,
and we do it politely.
we do it politely, but with finesse and style.
Yeah. All right. The shit's getting deep here, folks. Come on. Cheyenne, bring in the broom and the shovel. It's getting deep over there. Clean up aisle one behind the anvil. Clean up aisle one behind the anvil.
But
So
yeah.
we're getting kind of long here. I think we're doing pretty good. So what we talked about the upcoming, I guess you could say, relocation of the
Mhm.
main, well, Dustin Rhodes and Cheyenne CB Boneworks here in the coming future. Um, Once you get settled in, what are the things can people expect in the future? Um,
Um, I think I can talk about this reasonably. Um, with the expansion, we will be located at a very popular, huge knife related showroom in Sevierville, Tennessee. Start checking around on that. I think some people might be able to guess what that is. But we'll be offering forging experiences there. We're also going to have some of our personally produced custom product available in a small shop there. You can expect, I'm sure, Cheyenne doing really weird, crazy, creative stuff with handle material that makes absolutely no sense to the common person or anyone who's going, why would you ever do that? But it'll turn out cool. I guarantee that.
and I'm pretty sure there'll be a few carved skulls,
There
animal
will likely
skulls,
be
but
some carved skulls, and I'm looking forward to moving approximately a box truckload of those carved skulls
wouldn't that
that
be
aren't
fun?
carved yet.
Get pulled over. What's in the back? Skulls.
Yeah.
Like, can we have you step out?
Well, and that's the other thing is it's like, okay, so is there anything that we can do here that we really can't do there? And part of it is in relation to some of the handle material we were just talking about. Um, there are a few states where there's restrictions on that, and I've got to look into it and get. I actually have to get legal advice on whether I can take some of that or not. I've got a box of ivory, I've got a box of human bones, I got a box of gemstones and things like that. Well, the gemstones and the ivory, it's not an issue for the type of ivory that I do have, but there may be some restriction on
Yeah, box
some of
of
the other
human.
hand
The
material.
officer picture. What is that? Oh, a bunch of human bone. Step. Put your hands against the vehicle.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be
So
kind of. That would be
So
kind of an interesting.
realistically, I mean, you can expect us getting into more custom builds and having more fun with it again. Whereas, and it's not that we don't have fun with it. It's just we were talking about economy, and Illinois is probably the epicenter of if a meteor. Since we're talking about meteorite Damascus, if a meteor that caused a terrible economy were to crash somewhere, it'd be right in Chicago and it would spread to the rest of Illinois.
True.
So we've been doing a lot more stuff that's more like introductory level, more consumer grade, not as many custom collectible pieces, except for that's mostly what Cheyenne does is the higher artistry. I'm looking forward to getting into doing some of those again. And at the same time, turning out a lot of like my American Puko series and the Classic American Hunter series, turning out those, but I'm really wanting to make me some big tail sacket bowies, some camp choppers. Um, and I'll probably make some swords too. I mean, I like making swords, but I sell a lot more hunting knives and kitchen knives, your EDCs and so forth. That's what people really seem to buy. And that was something I was going to touch on was the
Yeah, go
pyramid.
ahead.
So, you guys are familiar with the food pyramid. One, it's built upside down, where
Yes.
you'd primarily be doing protein and then carbohydrates as it goes, or whatever. But so if you think about what you sell as a pyramid, okay, well, what's your base level? What do you sell the most of? That's going to be, Mike, for you, I'm sure it's probably those cool pocket knives, the folders. You're probably selling those like crazy.
Um,
So
it kind of hit a wall. They were doing really good. I've got um if you want a custom folder, they are a friction folder. You can go to mikesdamascusknives.com and send me a contact information there, and we can discuss them from there. Self
yeah.
plug. I pay the bills.
But in general, we're looking at knives you use on a daily basis. Who doesn't use a knife with their fork or use a knife with the while you're cutting up a pork loin or cutting vegetables or doing meal prep? Okay, so you're looking at everyday carry knives. You're looking at meal prep, kitchen knives, culinary use, and
Opening
then
Amazon package.
yeah, hunting knives. Could be a neck knife, but just something the person will carry every day. And like you said, it kind of does vary where you're really selling a lot of neck knives, friction folders, whatever, and then it just kind of woo, for whatever reason, kind of you have a barrier come up, I guess. And they're usually temporary, and then it's just hit the ground running. So from there, then I go into outdoor use. So outdoor is like bowies, choppers, kukris. I'm going to throw tomahawks and hatchets in there, outdoor use. Your hunting knives kind of float up in there too. And so things that you use for camping, for fishing, for gardening, and so forth. We've got a tomahawk we call the forager tomahawk, and the forager hawk has an adze blade on the back, and Cheyenne uses hers in the woods all the time, digging sassafras roots, harvesting mushrooms, different things like that. It's a lot of fun, useful piece. Jason Knight seemed to like him at the foraging festival at Smoky Mountain Knife Works last year.
Speaking of mushrooming, I got a knife here that I made for my cousin a while back that went through his compost pile for a year. Had to set it down, clean it up. Handle scales were bad. You can check that out. A little bit of shorts on here on the YouTube channel, American Bladesmith, right here on YouTube. If you're watching here, I got thinking about folder knives, and he's like, "Why not? Why not a folding mushroom knife?" And I think I figured out how to do it. It's one of my pocket knives patterns I already use. I just got to change up a thing, change the blade a little bit, and how it all put together on the handle. But I just want to throw that out there.
Very cool. Very cool. Well,
And
from
these
the
are,
outdoor knives,
just for
so we
reference,
got
these are
EDC.
edible mushrooms that are culinary, not
Mhm.
the
Yeah, yeah, not the
magic magic,
recreational.
ride the magic dragon or carpet or whatever you want to call it.
Right. So on the pyramid, you're looking at EDCs, culinary, and what things you use on a daily basis, going up to outdoor use knives. So kind of recreational, but also maybe game processing and so forth. And then we come up into um, battle axes and well, maybe not battle axes, but axes in general. That's coming up above. And part of that is because, I mean, you can go to the hardware store and buy your generic $30 splitting axe, and you're probably okay. But above, so right there, I'm looking at axes, and that could be battle axes, that could be outdoor use axes. And then we start phasing into daggers a little bit, coming up into swords. And it's not that I can't sell swords, it's just so much. There's so much competition. You look at Cass on Way, which I've got quite a few of, and Cheyenne has, and you look at Windlass, and you look at these that are like, man, these are cool and they're affordable. And no, I cannot make that for $600, but I can buy it and then I get to keep it and play with it.
That's what
And
she said.
then above the swords, that's really where you start getting into things like spears. And spears are, you know, they're
I think you can
difficult to
hunt.
ship.
I think you can hunt deer with spears in Tennessee.
I know there's different states that do allow it in like hog hunting. I've had people have them forged for hog hunting. And spears, the problem is, unless someone's just ordering the spearhead or a spearhead and a butt cap, um, you want to add a 6 foot spear shaft there. That's kind of difficult to ship.
True.
And it's kind of difficult to ship economically. So that's really kind of where spears are probably at the top as far as I make very few of these in comparison to everything else.
Very nice. So, um, when we talked about this and everything, one thing about the new change, basically, you could say the move, the relocation, whatever you want to call it. What are one of the things other than business? What are you looking forward towards doing with the move? I mean, I'm sure that yes, you are moving for economic reasons and potential more business, not just more real estate. But what are some of the things you're looking forward to in the future for yourself, for the basically the fam and everything else?
Well, I'm looking forward to better weather. Not hurting all the time. The pressure's different down there in the mountains. I say down there in the mountains, it should be like up there in the mountains. But the pressure's different, so the weather's better, the economy's better, everything's better. I'm in Illinois, so you can't get a whole lot worse unless you go to California, I guess, or a third world country.
Or
But
soon to be New York City.
could be New York has more opportunity though.
Not for long.
So, what I'm looking forward to, one, is having things to do. Like here, we don't have a whole lot to do recreation wise, and what there is locally us. So a lot of times we don't either have anything to go out and do, or people are going out to do things, so they come here to throw axes, to make knives, to have recreation. So I'm looking at being able to go do some fun stuff, and also there's a lot more firearm options down there than there is in Illinois. So I'm looking at expanding my collection again some more constantly.
Basically, don't leave Dustin Rhodes alone unattended in the local gun shops.
I'm looking forward to getting forward to seeing some of my friends down there too, and just in general, looking forward to a positive step forward in life, and seeing where things really go with the business. Mike, I think the first time we actually met in person, we had a meeting about Forged and Fired Knife Makers Marketplace.
Actually, it was out in front of we met out in front of Blade Show in 2019.
Yeah.
And Josh Nicolaitis comes up, and I'm sitting there going, and he goes, "I bet you thought it was taller." And says, "Yeah." I says, "Yeah, that's the camera angle." He holds it, makes him look taller, and that's what it says, and that's what she said too. The camera angle made it look longer. And you turned bright red and walked away. Oh,
Oh
that was
yeah.
epic.
So we had a meeting down in the pit. That it was that night or Saturday night. I don't remember which, but I know a lot
They
of
kind of blend
alcohol.
together because there was a lot of fun going on.
Oh, it was great.
And I'm from Utah, and going from 3.2 beer to 8.5% beer. Yeah, and then drinking some hooch.
It was good. It was a good time.
It was good times.
One of the things we talked about was going mainstream to get away from just the social media aspect where we were doing majority of our sales. And it's a great place to start. But the problem with social media is if you're making money, they want that a good portion. They want their chunk. So we started dealing with shadow banning and so forth. We did the experiment with Forged and Fired Knife Makers Marketplace. Millions of dollars were made. God, I wish I would have asked for like 5 or 10% off of sales. That would have been great. I've been retired, or getting on my way
Retired.
to it.
Well, maybe a little the other R word, but definitely retired.
Right. So,
Oh,
we talked about how are we going to make this mainstream, and I think I can't remember who it was, but they had like forgedandfiresmiths.com, and we were looking at trying to revamp that or modify it. And so that's what I'm really looking forward to, is going mainstream and not having to go, all right, guys, it's Friday night, and let me show you what I've tried to get put together to bust my ass. And here's the seconds that I can offer you. And then some of my good stuff too, if things are really moving tonight.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And I'm kind of working once I got to get with my guys. Everybody just got kind of busy on stuff. Baseball season showed up, so they're still working on their app, and we're working on a project that's pretty much going to help avoid social media because according to the studyings I was doing, little bit of research, 52, a little over 52% of Americans, even worldwide, shop by views and apps.
Yeah.
And so hopefully within the next year, I was hoping to have it a little closer, but yeah, life gets in the way sometimes. Um,
Absolutely.
Speaking of the platforms and everything else, I got thinking tonight, a lot about it tonight and those last few days. I've noticed it seems like the major networks like History, Discovery, a lot of those are, I think we're going to see the sunsetting on major networks, honestly, because more people are going back to YouTube to watch. One, yes, it's free. Some people are paying the $12, $14 a month to skip the ads. Watch the ads because people like us, the creators, we do get an ad share revenue from that. So even on Facebook, so if there's an ad pop up, just watch it. It sends us a little bit of money. I mean, last month I made a whole $10 from ad revenue. So yeah,
Yeah.
simple like and share. But I think because of online streaming, like Roku channel, people can start. And we're looking at putting a Mike Damascus Knife TV channel, or probably be under the American Bladesmith TV show channel or TV channel or whatever how we frame it, because we still are trying to produce episodes of that. It's just trying to get everybody all on with everything in sports and everything else with the kids. Basically, dance around life. My question is, because and I think the networks have killed themselves because of the over dramatization of reality TV, reality shows. The last, it sounds like the last, again, quote here, seemed, I haven't watched it. It seems like a lot of the Fortune Fire towards the end started getting a little built in drama. I don't know. I haven't watched it. We kind of seen a little bit of that ourselves, but that's not here to say. I'm not making any accusations or anything. I'm just saying, the different shows and such. I think people are getting tired of the mainstream networks and they're going to YouTube. They're watching Dustin Rhodes Ford work. They're watching uh, Beat the Smith on American Bladesmith here, or they're listening to the podcast. I've been finding myself watching more YouTube channels on the different channels of just dumb stuff. Going starting
Yeah.
a tractor that's been sitting out in the field for the last 50 years, or new content, new, different Apple TV, etc. I know I'm getting on here. What do you see the same thing that eventually the mainstream with all the digital the platforms we have, the mainstream networks, I think in the next 10 to 15 years, they're probably not going to be around, or they're going to have to evolve,
Well, and that's a good point to be made. You start
especially
looking
with
at some
AI.
of the production companies that we've dealt with, like I guess for us would have been Left Field Entertainment before it went to ITV or did the merger or however they did that. I don't remember that exactly. Or I also worked for or worked with. I want to say worked with Matador Content for Mass.
Master of
Yeah,
Arts.
Master of Arms on Discovery. And the thing is that they can sell to uh, whoever's offering enough, And when it comes down to it, do you want to have to try to see what the next episode is of whatever that's coming out, at a specific time? Uh, on television, or do you just want to check out the streaming service and, oh, hey, it's available now? I can watch it at my leisure time, regardless of what my schedule is. Okay, well, that does make sense. And Mike, I don't know if you notice this, and I may be wrong, but it seems like since Forged in Fire has concluded filming and that it has now become available on streaming services like Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, continue from there wherever it may all
And
be.
also in different countries too. I understand that it's now available. Somebody told me on it was a live I did. Somebody was watching me out of India. Said Forge
Yeah.
of Fire is now available in India, which is cool.
Man, I would love to hear the overdub on that one.
Right? Oh, especially with Paul
So,
up there.
the cool thing is that now people who would normally have just only been watching the History Channel, that's not our audience. Now I've got people who are like, hey, on Disney Channel, they got this Forged in Fire show. You look familiar. Yeah, I do. You know, that I get that a lot. In fact, I had,
Matter of fact, if you pull a box out and stand on it, they'll recognize you better.
well, it happens. But when it really comes down to it, now as a result of the conclusion of the show, they're actually getting a more diverse audience of people who might be interested. I mean, I don't know. I don't watch Disney Channel or Disney Plus or whatever to be able to tell you, if there's anything with swords in it or whatever. But I remember like there were some Disney movies like Sword in the Stone and things like that, where, hey, when you're a kid, and back when I was a kid, I won hunted
I have
mammoth with
forgotten
rocks
about
and
that movie,
sticks.
Sword in the Stone. That's been a minute. I'll have to go watch that.
That's been a minute, But when I think about what was there that had things that I was interested in, like swords, oh my God, that is just so cool. Um, well, now we've got people who were probably not the target audience, the target demographic, who are able to, one, view those episodes, and two, look us up on social media and find us and interact with us. And that seemed to be one thing that was like really critical when my episode came out, was that I had set it up to have my business page and all that, and people started messaging me. Now, some of them were creeps. I'll give you one example. I'll talk about the creep here in a minute, but being able to interact directly, even if it was through Messenger or whatever, with our audience, but also our customer base. Man, I was making money hand over fist. Fortunately, the ex-wife couldn't figure that out, and that bitch left. So glad she's gone. But
We won't
I
go
want to
there.
get on the. I was talking about. I had several get a hold of me that were just really creeps, because you can tell when someone's typing one-handed and use your imagination on what the other one's doing while they're talking to you because they saw you on TV and think you're pretty or whatever. But I had this one really high class, I'm going to female, probably not a lady. We'll just go. This one high class person, there was a female. He got a hold of me and was like, hey, I just saw you on TV. And it's like, okay, cool. Thanks for watching my episode. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm going to get an order here. Well, this person did not check her autocorrect and sent me, I want to see or show me your big clock. Show me your big clock.
Well, you had a big clock on the wall.
Okay, I'm getting to that. Don't get ahead of me on this story. So I go in the bedroom.
We're not going to talk about get ahead on you.
I get my robe on. Of course, it's not tied yet because I go to get that. And then I get me a bungee cord. It's got the hooks on each end. My grandpa, and you're talking about this particular clock that I had on my wall, my grandpa got me for Christmas, had like a shotgun shell, and you see part of a Remington shotgun receiver, maybe a pocket knife or something. And so I took that down and I put that on like it was a belt, like, we're talking about like beyond rodeo belt buckle size. This we're talking about like this right here for the clock. So I put that on, got my got my clock out, and cover up with the robe, and was like, hey, I want to see a picture. So that's when you got you can do the picture or video with the little camera on your laptop at the time. So I was like, and here's my clock.
They can definitely
And
tell the time by the hands.
it was awesome, man. It was funny as hell because then that's not what I meant. I'm like, yeah, but that's what you got.
There. Oh heavens. Oh heavens. That's funny.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. While we're recording this right before Easter weekend here, so if those who are listening after this, we're gonna wrap things up here. I think we're coming up on time.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, anything you want to share? I guess we get into the words of wisdom here. My mind just went blank. Had a few questions I
Words
was
of
gonna ask.
wisdom. Don't let don't let mainstream media distract you from your true calling in life. Don't let it distract you from doing well for yourself, for helping others. There's always going to be a distraction. But if you truly have a dream, you have a dedicated path in life, commit yourself to that and follow it. That's I think that's what I want to offer up here. Because right now we've got a lot of distraction between well, get on Facebook and it'll slap you in the face just about as soon as you log in. Or if you get on any streaming network with current current events, or just watch the news, listen to the radio,
For the
and it's
view.
going to be something in regards to matters that you can't change and that you don't have any influence over. What you do have influence over, and what you can change and you can build towards, is your own well-being in your life. And you know, coming up on the Easter weekend, I think that's something we should look forward to, is enjoying family and not being distracted by all of the
Things in the world.
I'd usually say ignorance, but all the things that are going on right now.
Yeah, very well said. Um, well, even with all the moves and everything else, you're still gonna have knives available. Where can
Yep.
they find you? Where they can contact you? I don't think the website is up yet again. I think that
No, the website's not up yet. I've got to contact somebody on that. We're looking at, like I said, we're in a transition phase right now, so we're kind of trying not to get buried under a bunch of orders and
I know a guy, so when
obligations.
you're ready, we'll make those connections on that. So
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So you can find us on Facebook at Axon Main Forge Memory. You can also find me at Dustin Rhodes Forge Works, Axon Main. Uh,
Cheyenne
or no, I'm
Barbecue.
sorry, Dustin Rhodes Forge Works, Forge Memory.
How about
My personal
Ed's?
page, Cheyenne's personal page, CB's Boneworks.
Yep.
You can also just find us here at 409 North Main in St. Elmo, Illinois. Um,
And you ship worldwide?
we do ship international. Yes, we do.
Cool. So, well, Dustin, I appreciate it. Appreciate your time. I'm glad we'll get Cheyenne up here up next for another episode. Glad to be able to go a little longer than our last 30 minutes of last time. I felt kind of bad, but we were
Had a
trying to
good
figure out
time.
how to format this. So, definitely have to get Liz on here, and once the transition gets in place, and get her on and talk about her new venture, and Dalton's as well.
Yep.
Yeah, let's wrap this up. As we say in the shop, stay sharp, America. And remember, there's only one King, and that's Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, which rose on this Easter Sunday, beyond His own power, for me and you. Regardless if you want to believe Him or not, He is there. A quick prayer, such like that, when you need time of need. So, yeah, happy Easter, happy Resurrection Day coming up. I know people will probably listen to this in a couple weeks afterwards, but we're just going to say that anyway. And yeah, I think that's a wrap. So, ding on the anvil, and yeah, my mind's just dead. So, have a good night, folks. Remember, you can check us out at MikeSamouseKnives.com. Got to pay the bills, help me keep the lights on, keep this off OnlyFans. So, oh Lord, catch you next time on American Bladesmith. Yeah, American Bladesmith channel and Behind the Anvil. I'm out, folks.